Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook and today in Pod 29 I'll be looking at the result of a West Ham by bringing you my match review, player rankings and my man of the match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce and Scott Dan after the game. So let's begin. Palace's first ever visit to London Stadium ended in defeat as goals from Feghouli, Andy Carroll and Manuel Lanzini secured victory for West Ham United over the Eagles. Sam Allardyce's side looked more likely to break the deadlock in the first half but couldn't quite find the net, and after the restart Feghouli tapped in from close range before Carroll netted a wonderful scissor kick. To rub salt into the wound, with 4 minutes to go, Lanzini raced through to add a third and give the result a lopsided look that the Eagles didn't merit after an encouraging start. That began when Jason Puncher was first to worry a goalkeeper, when a fine chip pass by Yohan Cabaye over the top of the defence reached the winger, but his ambitious volley flew over. However, the first half's only clear-cut chance would fall to the host 14 minutes later, when Mark Noble charged down the right flank and picked out Andy Carroll on the penalty spot, but the striker side-footed the ball above Wayne Hennessy's crossbar when he should have hit the target. After that let-off, Palace went straight down the other end and the game's third volley was the sweetest of them all, when Cabaye struck one from 25 yards out, but Darren Randolph managed to get his body behind it. But in 34 minutes, the Eagles were inches away from taking the lead, when an Andros Townsend free kick evaded everyone and found James Tomkins at the far post. But the former Hammer could indistinctly only flick a boot on it, and saw the ball go across the goal and drift narrowly wide. Having shaded in the first 45 minutes, the Eagles continued to press for the opener after the break, and Cabaye sliced over after a knockdown from Christian Benteke. But the threat of Carroll in the air was always prominent, and only some brave defending from Tomkins denied his former teammate from heading in for Ghouli's cross on 52 minutes. Slaven Bilic's side good start to the second half continued as the England striker drilled well wide before Lanzini curled a free kick just over the top, and then Sam Byron saw a shot just bounce wide from an acute angle as the Hammers built up a head of steam. And the pressure told on 68 minutes when West Ham took the lead. Noble released Antonio down the left, who raced through the back line and rounded Wayne Hennessy before shooting at the empty goal. But despite dragging it wide, it kindly fell to Feghouli, who had the simplest of tap-ins to grab the all-important opening goal. Allardyce tried to change his side's fortunes by introducing Loic Remy for a Premier League debut. However, on 78 minutes the game was put to bed in sublime fashion. Lanzini again probed down the left and handed the ball off to Antonio, who provided a peach of a cross for man of the match Carroll, who once again showed his incredible athletic ability to scissor kick the ball into the top corner of Hennessy's goal. With the result virtually beyond doubt, Jeffrey Schlupp was introduced for his Eagles debut, but he couldn't prevent a third goal from the host on 84 minutes when West Ham countered a Palace attack and Antonio slid in Lanzini, who raced away and produced a brilliant dink over the tormented Hennessy to score for the fourth consecutive game against the Eagles and give the scoreline a very harsh reflection. In case Sam Allardyce wasn't entirely aware of what the challenge ahead of him looked like, this defeat would have proved a significant reality check. While Crystal Palace started the game well, a failure to take chances was then punished by West Ham's ability to capitalise on the Eagles' defensive errors. Allardyce's side currently look incapable of keeping a clean sheet. Now for some positives from the game. We didn't concede from a set piece. It is really difficult to find any positives from this performance. The result might however highlight what the club need to do in terms of recruitment, because key players in the midfield and defence mainly are not doing their jobs. Now for some negatives from the game. There are so many things that could be listed, but Palace's defensive frailty, which stretches from the forward line's unwillingness to apply pressure through to the midfield's slow reactions to the defence's poor marking, is just bottomless. Allardyce was brought in with a record for defensive solidity. He hasn't addressed Palace's weaknesses yet. It was billed as a crunch match between two London rivals, with West Ham United and Crystal Palace in need of a morale-boosting win after poor recent results. For the Hammers, who were coming off the back of a 5-0 hampering at home by Manchester City in the FA Cup, and still reading the news that starman Dimitri Payet had refused to play for the Cup, it was key to put the troubles of the past week behind them. Meanwhile, for Palace, it was important to end a winless run that stretched back to December the 3rd, when they beat Southampton at Selhurst Park, with Eagles boss Sam Allardyce still searching for his first win since taking charge just before Christmas. But Palace were left disappointed as they were on the end of a second half blitz from the Hammers at the London Stadium. So what do we learn from the game? Here are 5 things. Number 1. What a strike. Crystal Palace were unfortunate to be on the receiving end of an outrageous strike from Olivier Giroud in their recent defeat at Arsenal, and they conceded another one here. Andy Carroll's bicycle kick was sensational and lit up what had been a pretty dull encounter. His goal, West Ham's second of the game, was up there as a contender for goal of the season and can probably be added to Giroud's recent strike for the shortlist. Number 2. Not quite the return he wanted. James Tomkins really should have scored on his return to his former club. He ghosted in at the back and connected with an Aldous Townsend free kick, but somehow managed to put the ball wide when it looked easier to score. It proved pivotal too, as West Ham ran out 3-0 winners in the second half. Number 3. He's at it again. Crystal Palace must be fed up of playing against Manuel Lanzini. The West Ham midfielder said that himself before the game, and he continued his impressive goal scoring record against Crystal Palace, scoring his 4th goal in his last 4 games against the Eagles. Number 4. A support act. Christian Benteke did not have his greatest game in a Palace shirt, but he had little support from his teammates up top and played a lone channel at times. The Eagles seemed reluctant to commit men forward and did not create much as a result. Fans on social media were crying out for Loic Remy, and he was introduced on 70 minutes, but not long before West Ham had scored the opener, and he did little to change the course of the game at that stage. Number 5. London calling. Crystal Palace's poor form in London derbies continued, with the Eagles losing for the 5th time in 5 matches against rivals from the capital. In addition, it is now 5 games in charge for Sam Allardyce, and he is still searching for his first win as the Eagles' boss. So now you've had the match review, we're now going to move on to the player rankings. But before we start, don't forget to follow us across social media on Twitter and Facebook at @eCrystalPalace for all the latest news. And for all you Facebook users out there, don't forget to check out our Facebook group so you can join in with the latest discussions, read the latest news and post your own opinion. So like I said there, if you're on social media and you do want to get in contact with us, then of course you can follow us on both Twitter and Facebook using the @eCrystalPalace. And obviously I highly recommend you do follow both of these pages on both Twitter and Facebook, because we do regularly update you with the latest news. So if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, obviously the news and especially the transfer news in the run up to the January transfer window, then of course do follow us on there, because we do regularly update it. So like I said, if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, all the latest news and transfers, then of course do follow us. And also if you do want to keep up to date with all things Palace, you know, we do post player and manager interviews after the game. So if you want to, you know, have your opinion heard, or you want to hear what the manager or players had to say, then of course our account is a good place to go. And as well, you know, much like what most, you know, fan accounts do, we do run quite a lot of Twitter polls. So if you do want to have your opinion heard in the Twitter polls and vote for who you think the best player was, or anything to do with the poll, then obviously I'll also recommend you do follow us, because that, you know, it gives you the chance to, yes, look at the news, but also, you know, have your opinion heard in the Twitter polls. And also, you know, I've said about Twitter already, you know, if you're on Facebook, I'll recommend you do join the Facebook group, which I highly recommend. I'm in it myself, you know, which you can find using the @eCrystalPalace group. Just search that in the Facebook search bar. And obviously, much like the Facebook and Twitter pages, I highly recommend you do join this group, because on there, after the game, quite a lot of fans go on there to post their own opinion on the game, on players, how they felt the players performed, or anything else they saw in the game. And also, occasionally you do get the odd fan who posts pictures from the game, you know, just, you know, sharing their fan opinion. But, you know, if you do want to discuss with other fans, you know, what you thought about the game or anything you saw throughout the game, then of course do go onto the page, comment that, or comment on other people's posts, so you can have a little bit more discussion. So, you know, I've said this already, you know, if you want to hear what others had to say about the game, or you want to read what others had to say, or read the news, or even, you know, just write down what you thought about the game, then of course do join the Facebook group. And, you know, much like all of the other groups, you know, on Facebook and Twitter, we do regularly update with the latest news. So as well as, you know, commenting on people's opinion, you can also comment on the latest transfer news and the latest player interviews. So if you do want to do that, then of course do follow our Facebook group, which you can find using the @eCrystalPalace group. And obviously, if you are listening to this on iTunes or YouTube, in the description below you'll find the links to all of the pages. So if you don't want to search them up, then of course you can use the links in the description below. But obviously, you know, if you are listening to the podcast on YouTube, then of course, you know, you've got the YouTube comments, so do drop a comment below the video, obviously, about what you thought about the game and who you thought, you know, the standout player was for Palace. And because, you know, we want to hear what you have to say, and other fans who come to watch the video, they want to hear your opinion as well. And obviously in the last few weeks, and I've done this for quite a few months now, you know, I've set a challenge to the listeners, and quite a lot of people have gone through. I looked through the videos. Quite a lot of people have actually commented this, and all it is giving you your player rankings. So obviously, I give you my player rankings. Obviously, giving players ratings from 1 to 10. Obviously, 1 being the best. Sorry, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. No, obviously, what I want you to do, is do the same. So obviously this is me giving my opinion, obviously on a 1 to 10 scale of how I thought the players performed. So if you are listening to YouTube, then of course comment below the video with your player rankings and your, so I can compare mine to yours. So obviously you hear mine in the podcast, but do comment yours below so we can compare it to mine and see whether we both had a similar opinion of, how we thought the players, performed. And, we want to see if we have a similar outlook in the game and see whether I missed something or you missed something, and just to see, what a general sort of thoughts and ideas, were about the game. And also, you can comment the player rankings, which I would really like you to do, because it gives sort of a comparison between my opinion and other fans' opinion. But also do feel free to comment below the man of the match, who you thought the best player was, the player who had the biggest influence, and also just anything else you saw about the game. But now enough of that. If you do want to follow us, then of course follow us, use the links in the descriptions below. But enough of that, now to move on to the player rankings. So normally after every match I'll give you a full overview of each of the players' performances, but after such a dismal display against West Ham, I don't really want to talk about it any more than I have to, and that's why I'm just going to give you the ratings and a small description, because to be honest, it was an absolutely shambolic display. And to be honest, like most fans after the game, I feel really deflated, quite depressed at the fact that we were so good up to the 70th minute and then it all collapsed. And yes, we were deflated after the game, we were depressed that we lost another game, but also ashamed at our performance, or the lack of performance. The fact that we played so well, but then we just let our performance slip, made errors, and obviously meant we lost the game. And to be honest, we did start the game well. We had, like I've said already, we had a decent 70 minutes, but then we threw it away in the final 20 minutes. And maybe it could have been the final 25 minutes, and we played well for 65 minutes. But whichever way you look at it, we played well. We played quite decent in the first half, slightly worse in the beginning of the second half, and then after about the 70th minute mark, it completely, it completely collapsed. And to be honest, up to the first goal, so let's get rid of the sort of 70th minute mark, up to the first goal, we actually worked really hard to try and keep the clean sheet. But then, our goalkeeper, Wayne Hennessy, made a mistake, completely destroyed that, and it was an individual error. The fact that he went to claim the ball when he really shouldn't have, and that individual error caused us to make a mistake. West Ham scored from it, and then we lost our performance, we lost our confidence from that point on, and obviously West Ham went on to score the next 2 goals. And to be honest, after half time, yes, we started the second half, all right. We didn't capitalise on the fact that West Ham made changes. So obviously at half time, because we were quite dominant in the first half, West Ham made a few changes, changing to a 4-4-2 formation. And obviously the Palace staff, the manager, coaching staff, didn't react quick enough, and the players as well, to these changes. And the pressure from that toll, the fact that we couldn't cope with their 4-4-2 with the strikers playing off of each other, the fact that we didn't change our formation or change the way we set up, meant that we couldn't really keep control of that pressure. And it meant that West Ham broke forward quite a lot. And to be honest, our failure to take our chances were then punished by West Ham's ability to capitalise on the Eagles' defensive errors. So the fact that we had loads of chances in the first half, a few of them, from 2 yards out. If we took them chances, it would have been a different story. But because we didn't take our chances, when West Ham had their chances, they either took them or, they made us, because they put so much pressure on us, they made us make the mistake. And that's obviously with the goals. And, at the moment, based on this performance as well, Allardyce's side look incapable of keeping a clean sheet. And whether that will be, the fact that, West Ham were good, which I don't think they overly were. I think it was just we were bad in the second half when our confidence went. And to be honest, Allardyce, he's coming to the side. He's got to try and do something with the side, when actually sort of the soul of the team, the confidence from the team has been shot because of the way Pardew managed it. So Allardyce has got a good, he's got a really hard management job to do because of how bad the squad was, and the confidence is completely shot. So Allardyce has tried to do it, but at the moment he can't, he can't really keep a clean sheet. And hopefully, in the next few games, he can hopefully, get a clean sheet so we can move on this season. But just to talk about the goals, the first goal, Antonio runs around Hennessy, or rounds Hennessy, crosses the ball in the area, and West Ham player scores. So just showing there that how Hennessy's indecision, that individual error, cost us the goal. And then from there on, it just collapsed. The second goal, yes, we had no chance with it because it was a fantastic overhead bicycle kick, but the fact that the defence. Joe Ward especially wasn't marking, Andy Carroll close enough. The fact that we didn't close down the defenders, so Dan and Delaney didn't close down Antonio close enough to make sure he didn't cut the cross. All of that just put together the lack of confidence, the fact that players weren't going in and putting the effort to try and make the blocks. And then the third goal as well, we're talking about lack of confidence. The whole defence was left open, because we tried to press high up the pitch to try and get a goal. And then Lanzini on the counter-attack runs past after a pass from Antonio, chips Hennessy once again. Hennessy, he came off his line too early. Easy for the the midfielder to chip him, and that goes in. So once again, an individual error from him, but also an error for the defence because they were left so open. But to be honest, I don't really want to talk about this because it is quite depressing. I've had enough of talking about this depressing talk. We've got to try and make things happen now, and the players have said that after the game. We know what we have to do. We weren't good enough. We need to try and make our dominance count. We did dominate West Ham in the first half, but yet we didn't make it count. So especially Scott Dan said it. We've got the dominance now. We've got the possession we need. Now we've got to make it count. So if we do have a slightly worse second half, let's say, at least we've got something from the game. But to be honest, it's depressing enough talking about it as it is. So as you heard at the beginning, I'm going to move on to the player rankings now. But like I said at the beginning, this week I'm only going to give you the the rating of the player from 1 to 10, and also the summary, because it was such a demoralising game and it was depressing for us. So I don't want to talk about it any more than I need to, and I'm sure that most fans as well have the same opinion as me. They want to move on. They can't be doing with this, and this is so depressing. But I don't really want to talk about it. It was such a demoralising game, and that's why I don't want to talk about it any more than I have to. People may comment below, asking me to explain more, which I'm fine. I'm happy to do that. But after such a really dismal display from us, the fact that we played so well and then just threw it away and lost 3-0 just shows the lack of confidence in the side. But enough of that. We're going to move on now to the player rankings, starting in goal with Wayne Hennessy, who I'm going to give a 3. No goalkeeper in the world would have saved Andy Carroll's goal. His nervous performance in the first half was a sign of what was to come in the second. Hennessy struggles with his decision making, and he failed to make the right decisions for 2 of the goals we conceded, inexplicably rushing out for the first goal and then hesitating for the third. Joe Ward, a 4. Seemed like a frustrating afternoon for him, and you do have to remember that he's playing out of position and continues to do a job at left back. Caught under the flight of the ball for Andy Carroll's incredible goal. Could have done more for that goal too. Provided some attack down the left. Scott Dan, a 4. Why Palace insisted on playing such a high line against West Ham's pace is difficult to comprehend. It meant that when the right pass did come though, Dan and his colleagues were left chasing shadows. He needs to rally the troops and use every ounce of his leadership qualities now. The defence has lost confidence. Damien Delaney, a 4. Glared at Hennessy following the first goal, despite bearing some responsibility due to his slow reactions to the initial pass. The act was repeated for the third goal too. James Tomkins, a 5. Tried to battle against his boyhood club and had a good first half, but missed a gilt-edged chance in the first half from close range, and followed that up by failing to stay in line with his teammates, allowing Antonio to be onside for the first goal. Did make some good tackles and blocks though against Andy Carroll. Jace MacArthur, a 5. The Scots' return to the side was welcome, but playing in a more advanced role, his performance lacked the cutting edge. Tired towards the end, he was taken off. Joe Ledley, a 4. His position is crucial in front of the back 4, and in the first half he didn't actually do much wrong. Palace showed tenacity in the midfield to dictate the play, and Ledley played a key role in that. West Ham's tactical change at half-time seemed to disprove that, however. Yomi Cabaye, a 6. He had a go, we'll give him that. Palace need players like Cabaye to step up and show leadership when others won't. He shows a bit of passion out there, and that sometimes leads to a foul here and there. Like much in the midfield, he wandered throughout the match. Had Palace's only shot on target in the game, but he tried a lot more than others on Saturday. Jason Punchin, a 5. Started the game brightly, but as was the case with his teammates, faded entirely for the second half. Palace are crying out for some creativity, and let's be honest, there hasn't been much from him for quite a while. Christian Benteke, a 5. It's perhaps unfair to be too critical of Benteke given that he's playing with a shoulder injury, but his failure to put on pressure on the opposition defences just invites more onto his own team. He must work harder even when he doesn't get enough service. In saying that, some of his chest downs with the ball to bring others into play was good. Andros Townsend, a 4. Still not much improvement. The source of Palace's few chances in the first half as he delivered 2 good crosses in for Benteke and Tomkins. Tried to run at Cresswell and got some good crosses in, but the effect he had wasn't all that great and he went missing in the second half and was substituted with 20 minutes to go. Now to move on to the substitutes, who all 3 of them not going to get ratings as they weren't on the pitch long enough. Loic Remy. looked a little bit off the pace, but the positive to take from his run out is that Remy appears to be willing to take shots when other players won't. His pace helped to put pressure on the West Ham defence. Keep giving him minutes and he could spark a moment of brilliance that Palace need. Start him in the next match against Everton in the league. Chung Lee played out wide, didn't have a real impact on the game. Linked up with Remy a few times, but nothing more though. Lovely guy, but has he really got that quality to come off the bench? Now to move on to the new signing, Jeffrey Schlupp. Palace went to a 4-4-2 formation and Schlupp went at left midfield. Showed some neat touches, good passing and vision, but Bailey had an opportunity to show his qualities. Had he been given more time, he could have made more of an impact. Play him on the left wing in the next game. So they were the player rankings. If you are listening to the video, like I said at the beginning, on YouTube, do comment below with your player rankings and whether you do agree with the low ratings I did give all the players. Now obviously I did give some of the players the benefit of the doubt because obviously, you know, as much as it was a really depressing game, you know, in the first half, quite a lot of players, including Punchin particularly, put in a pretty decent performance in the first half, but in the second half it let them down and that's when the whole team collapsed. So do comment below with whether you agree, and if you do want to, you know, if you do want to share your opinion on both halves, then give player rankings and ratings for both the first and second half. And I'll assure you now that I was personally thinking that, and players like Punchin, Kabai will certainly have different ratings depending on which half they played in. But just really to summarise the game, you know, I said it at the beginning, it's really depressing really when you've lost this game in the way we did. You know, the fact that we played so well, but then we threw it away in the last sort of 25 minutes. But you know, I've given all of the ratings to all of the players. You know, the defence I'm going to give a 4. You know, conceding 3 goals, just losing confidence, not good enough. You know, the midfield in the first half, yes, they've done a decent job, but in the second half, didn't give protection to the back line, didn't create enough. And the attack, you know, we didn't, you know, in the first half, a few decent crosses came in. Not much else happened. You know, Benteke had a few chests down, but nothing more than that. And, you know, we didn't really have that much presence up top. So I think a 5's a fair result for that. But to be honest, overall team, maybe a 5 for the team. And, you know, an overall team effort, it was quite disappointing. You know, it would have been alright to lose the game, maybe 1-0. But the way we lost it, the fact that we collapsed and just completely, you know, just lost confidence is, you know, not very good. And the word really I use is frailty, you know, our defensive frailty, you know. I've talked about the midfield and attack not being good. You know, the forward lines, like i.e. Benteke, Townsend, who play on the wing, you know, they stretch so far forward that they don't want to press, they don't want to try and go forward, they don't want to go back and defend. So that sort of led to our defensive frailty. The fact that the players, especially the forward players, weren't chipping in to try and help. Also, you know, the midfield's slow reactions. So obviously the midfield are meant to be protecting the back line, but because we were so slow at reacting, and the fact that we were low on confidence meant that West Ham, with their pace on the counter-attack, ran through us, and that just runs through the defence's poor marking. So if you've got defence who are marking poorly, you want the midfield to at least try and help them. But because the midfield was so slow, it meant that they got to the defence on the counter-attack. They were already under pressure, and because they marked so poor, it meant that, you know, West Ham got through. And to be honest, it's just bottomless. You know, it's really depressing. Really, I can't highlight enough, you know, talking about this result. And to be honest, it is bottomless. You know, the fact that the way we lost the game, the fact that we played all right in the first half and completely collapsed in the second half is unbelievable. And, you know, really now Allardyce has got to sort this out quickly. You know, get in a few more transfers, because certainly this is not right. And, you know, we know Allardyce was brought in because he had a good, you know, defensive record for solidity. And so far, he hasn't actually addressed that for Palace. And I know I may get criticised for this because we lost 3-0. And, you know, some pundits have said that, you know, we are sort of defensively better than we were under Pardew. And the fact that we didn't concede from a set piece, and I don't want to jinx this now, but, you know, we haven't conceded from a set piece. And these goals were just our sort of unorganisation on the counter-attack. So, you know, he's sort of fixed up the defence, but he's got to try and do it more now so that he can reinstate the confidence back into the back line and add a little bit more, you know, solidity. And to be honest, he's got to make sure, sort of fix the frailty we have at a minute. And to be honest, no, if there's only one good thing to highlight about this game, because everything else is depressing, it's really horrible, but the one really good thing from the game is actually it really highlights the fact that what the club need to do. You know, Steve Parish, Sam Allardyce, they've got to recruit some players. You know, whether it be another left back, Patrice Evra, being linked with the club, whether it be another right back in Cole Jenkinson, whether it be, you know, another midfielder or another striker. You know, we need to recruit some more players, because based on this performance, some of our players are really, really underperforming. So we need to bring in some new players, yes, to give more quality to the side, but also to put these players under pressure to keep their places in the side, and hopefully that will up the performance of the players. But certainly, you know, in defence and midfield, you know, primarily this is where we need, the new players to come in, because quite frankly, the players are not doing their jobs properly, and it is getting quite depressing. The fact that our players are letting us down, we've got a good set of quality players here, but they're really letting us down at the minute with the way they perform. So now to move on to the Man of the Match award, but after such a dismal display, no one deserves the award, as no one had a massive influence, showed tenacity or even showed fight throughout the game. But mentions must go to James Tomkins, Johan Cabaye and James MacArthur, and the subs Lurk Remy and Jeffrey Schlupp for being the least worst players and at least trying throughout the game. In contrast to this, according to WhoScored.com stats, these four were our best players: Christian Benteke, James Tomkins, Joe Ward and Andros Townsend. They had scores of 6.3, 7.2 and 6.8 respectively. So now you've heard my match report, player rankings and my man of match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Sam Allardyce and Scott Dan following the game.
Scott, obviously team must be disappointed after that one.
Yeah, bitterly disappointed coming away from home and kind of having a slight control in the game in the first half. We probably edged the first half in terms of playing. We look confident, but the game obviously lasts for 90 minutes and we need to stay concentrated and keep ourselves in the game for as long as possible if we haven't scored that goal, especially away from home.
Do you think in the first half we saw some of the fruits of the work that's been done on the training ground since Sam's come in defensively?
Yeah, and we minimised their attack to not very much chances in and around our box. I think they had one half chance maybe. That's what we've been working on. But then obviously they changed it in the second half and we didn't quite match them once that first goal went in, and that's something that we need to work on individually, collectively, because we need to, even when we go one goal down, there's still enough time to get back into the game, maybe nick a point, and we seem to just open up a bit too much, and then obviously they score the last two goals.
And finally, we've got a couple of home games coming up, Tuesday and Saturday. How fired up are you to put things right in front of the Sellers crowd?
Definitely. I think we all know the position we're in, and it's time we start looking at ourselves in the mirror collectively, individually, and we need to start picking up points. Like I say, there's no good staying it, playing okay-ish in the first half, and then not playing well in the second half of games, especially at home. We need to start putting in better performances, and that starts against Everton.
Sam, can we get your thoughts on the game, please?
I'm shocked on the result. I really am. I was thinking about us maybe going on to win the game today. We were so comfortable up to 70 minutes, and then of course, lo and behold, when you least expect it, we make some errors, and in this game in the Premier League, one error can't follow another, and we didn't compete for the goal kick, we didn't win the knockdown, we didn't stay with the runner, and then the goalkeeper came out far too early and too soon and made it easier. So it was about 3 and 4 small errors all accumulated in the same time to make West Ham score what looked it was a very, very simple goal for them to score, which was, like I said, ultimately gifted by us, and they'd found up to then it very difficult to break us down or even get a shot at goal. So I can't remember Wayne Hennessy up to that point actually making a save or having to make a save. So I was expecting us to try and go on and get the lead, which we should have done in the first half based on the chances we had. Didn't convert it, and then the disappointment after that was how easy we collapsed, really, how easy we let them get the second and the third.
Is it always the case kind of with teams that have been on a bad run that once the first goal goes in, the heads drop a little bit? Do you think it affects the focus a bit?
Absolutely, because we said the same about West Ham today. If we get the first goal, their heads will drop, and they've dropped many times here this season. So, it was us that needed to get it, and when you get the chance to score them and you don't take them, and then the game's still in the balance, You know, West Ham have found it extremely difficult here once a team has scored against them, and I think that for us, when we had the earliest opportunities before them, in fact, they only had one shot at goal in the first half, which was Andy Carroll's volley. You know, but the times we had efforts at goal, and particularly, it would have been wonderful James Tomkins to score when he got that particularly good chance, and then there was another one after that. And like I said, it's been a very disappointing end to what seemed like what might have been a good result today, and up to 70 minutes a good performance. But after that, really shocked, I'm afraid.
And finally, just a word on Jeffrey Schlupp, who arrived yesterday. Played on midfield today, but is he a defensive option as well?
He is definitely. It's an opportunity for these, for us to, have a player that can play in a couple of positions, because that may be necessary for us in our fight to get out the position that we're in. But he can play left back, and he can play wide left for us, or left wing back if need be. So, and he's left-footed, which was important for us. But obviously, by the looks of it, in my short period of time, it's great to see MacArthur back. I thought he was very clever today in his footwork. It's great to see him back, and of course, Lorit Remy getting better. So, Wilfried Zaha and Bakisako away. So we might have to suffer this period. We might have to be brave enough to say it's going to be difficult till the end of Jan, beginning of Feb, until those players come back, and whatever new players we may secure, and then we'll see hopefully a bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But for me, it's about drawing if you can't win, and the players have, certainly against here today and certainly against Swansea, failed to do that. Always difficult against Arsenal away, but just a draw against Swansea and a draw here today means it's that extra 2 points that you were ever closer to games played. We've now got far too many points to catch up with games played, and that distance is massive when you're moving into this second half of the season. So we haven't got long to go before we need to turn it round, and before life becomes exceedingly difficult. So we're on the brink of that at the moment, and we must turn that round with results.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Sam Allardyce and Scott Dan had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against West Ham United. But make sure to come back next week for my post-match review of the game against Bolton. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace!